We turn to the phone lines right now, and he's one of my favorites. It was, again, a career highlight for me to sit with him and the now Emmy-nominated Bill Belichick on the set of the NFL 100 All-Time Team Show, one of the voices of Football Night in America and Sunday Night Football. And he and the rest of the Pro Football Focus team will be all over this draft right here on this Sirius XM Channel 211 starting at 7 Eastern Time on Thursday night. He is Cris Collinsworth. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Rich. I think we set up Belichick so well. He got the Emmy nomination, don't you? Is that kind of how you look at it?
Well, you know what, Chris? There is an I in Chris and Collinsworth and Rich and Eisen, and I think again,
no question.
You know what I'm saying?
No question about it.
We helped him out. It's all we did our job, right? He says, "Do your job." We did our job. So
we had a very small job. I tell you, it was looking back on it now, though. Mm-hmm. How interesting was the dialogue and the back and forth between Brady and Belichick?
Oh yes,
I mean it was compelling. You know, I mean there was clearly this issue floating about the room, and I mean you'll remember I could barely stand it. I mean I was like, okay, this is not going at all right. I was like, okay. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night, Tom, and go, I'm Tom effing Brady here, man. I won you a lot of Super Bowls. You should be doing, you know, and it was like this, like they both looked at me like, you dog, you know. But I can just remember the feeling of this is maybe the first time that they've actually been in the room where conceivably this conversation could be happening.
Yes, and that they were both being honored with one of the greatest honors that the game could ever bestow on somebody. And I know that the Pro Football Hall of Fame is that, but so many Pro Football Hall of Famers would come into the room after that conversation, Chris, and look at the board and think that they had already had their fill of humbling honors in their life, and this was one of them. And I got the same feeling about Brady and Belichick too, Chris, but it was also, even though it was one of the last episodes the last episode that we aired, the quarterback one, it was the first segment that we recorded of all of them. And I just thought maybe we just all weren't in a flow yet. But looking back, I think that the two of those guys probably had never been on camera before together for an honor that each one of them had a huge role in playing for the other. And I don't know if they knew how to talk about it, quite frankly. You know?
Well, you know, and the reason that both of them are who they are is that they don't take a lot of time to sit and reflect. I mean, if you're sitting and reflecting when Tom Brady leaves, Bill Belichick is retiring. If you're sitting and reflecting when your contract is up with New England, you're certainly not going to another team, right? You're going, all right, I played till I was 40-something years old. That was enough. I feel good about myself, and I'm going to go retire to this incredible life that Giselle and I and the kids are going to have. Right. And yet there's something wound tightly within those two guys that you say that's not true about. You know, it's not true about either one of them. And I think it's almost inconceivable now that both of them are going to feel some competitive pull to outperform the other as now that they're on separate teams. Now, if you asked either one of them that question, I think they'd both say you're out of your mind. But, you know, they're both going for the same ring, right? I mean, they're both going for the same trophy, and if one of them should get it, you know, that's going to adjust that conversation too.
No doubt about it, Chris. And I guess just to put a fine point on this, using the documentary that we just saw the first two parts of on Sunday night in The Last Dance, and how difficult it is to keep anything together, certainly when it is so very successful. And that Bulls team, just for whatever reason, as we're learning, just could not be kept together. Brady and Belichick, for all what we were talking about what might have been in the room at the time last May, they still did do it for 20 years together. 20 years. That will never be matched in sports, let alone the NFL.
And when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, obviously we have a 6th-round draft choice, right, on one side. But on the other side, you have a guy that had been fired by the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, the whole thing, the unlikely nature of all of that perfect storm coming together to do what they remarkably did is a little mind-boggling, and I'm not sure we'll ever see anything like it again, because I just don't think that remote an odd of a sixth-round draft pick and a guy who had been fired from another I just can't see it ever happening again.
Cris Collinsworth, Sunday Night Football, and Pro Football Focus here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get to the draft. You and the guys at PFF have who is the highest-rated player going into this draft in 2 nights?
Oh, I think Joe Burrow is clearly the number one guy, and we're I think for the Cincinnati Bengals, you go back in their history and you look at they went to 2 Super Bowls. I was lucky to be a part of both. Kenny Anderson, Boomer Esiason, both won the MVP in the year in which we went to the Super Bowl. Carson Palmer, gave them good runs and gave them opportunities. And who knows if he beats the Pittsburgh Steelers in the game that he gets hurt throwing a 60-yard bomb and hurts his knee on the play, and the receiver hurt his knee on the play as well. Who knows? Because I think that was 2006. I think that was the year that the Steelers went on to the Super Bowl. And a guy that nobody will ever remember, Greg Cook, was supposed to be the best quarterback of all of them and hurt his shoulder after a year or two or whatever the case may be. So I think Mike Brown is certainly looking at this and going, you know what, you either have one of those guys and you have a chance, or you don't and you don't. And I've known him and been around him long enough to know that unless somebody drops a king's ransom at his front doorstep, he is going with Joe Burrow and taking a shot.
And let's just stick on the quarterback front. I mean, Tua, the evaluation of him for the last 2 years has just been stellar. We all know about the hip injury and the fact that no, I guess, team doctor has been able to, right before the draft, take a look at him and then look at their coach and or general manager in the eyes, and the doctor say, thumbs up. We don't have that. So now it's an evaluation of Tua minus the locked-in medical for your own team versus Justin Herbert. What about that evaluation in your mind, Chris?
A year ago at this time, it was tanking for Tua,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
And they have 3 picks in the first round, and I think Miami might have 2 in the second round as well. So they have more draft capital than anybody in this draft. The people at PFF will tell you, all of my mathematicians that work on this stuff, that the equation's pretty simple. That the quarterback moves the needle more than anybody else. It's not even close. The wins above replacement, the WAR stuff, and all the different things, it's not even close. So let's say that you draft Tua. You consider Tua to be the best one, and it's a complete bust. Doesn't work out. You still have the 18th pick, the 26th pick, 2 picks in the second round, more draft capital than anybody, and 2 tremendous quarterbacks coming, one out of Clemson, one out of Ohio State the following year, that maybe you get a chance to go for one of those. I did my mock draft, and I tried every scenario to take Tua out of number 5 at Miami, and I could not make it make sense. Okay, so let's say, because I've got Isaiah Simmons going to the Giants. I don't know what anybody else does. But Andrew Thomas is my best offensive tackle. Jedrick Wills, Justin Herbert, right down the left of the guys, Derek Brown, of the guys that are going to come next, is the potential now of what Tua could mean to that franchise. Is it worth the shot that he comes back to being the guy that we all thought just 10 months ago that he was that kind of guy? To me, it's still worth that shot. Now, I think that somebody else can look at Justin Herbert and go, that's the real freak in this draft. That's the 6'6" guy who can run 4.7, 4.8, that has this cannon of an arm that can get it anywhere you want to throw it. That's the poster child for the Miami Dolphins or Los Angeles Chargers going forward, and I can see that. Unfortunately, the PFF numbers and what he did on the football field don't measure up to that. They don't measure up to somebody going 3, 4, 5, even 6, 7, whatever. I put him at number 7 to the Carolina Panthers. And I didn't do any trades. I didn't do any of that stuff. I think the LA Chargers are convinced. Anthony Lynn is convinced that with Tyrod Taylor that he's got a player that can win. Lamar Jackson won the MVP a season ago with a similar style of play. And the one thing that the Chargers have always fallen on the sword not doing is fixing this offensive line. And I just look at them as a left tackle away from being able to compete. They've got the receivers in Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams. You got to write down the list. This is, they got the pass rushers with Bosa and Ingram. This is a team. They've got a secondary that can absolutely play with the Kansas City Chiefs with all the guys they've got there now. So as you look at that, I'm putting them at guard. With an offensive lineman, the Chargers at 6, and I'm putting Justin Herbert at 7. You've got a whole new look going on there. Cam Newton is gone. Matt Rule comes in. They love the downfield throws. There's nothing Herbert can't do. So that's the way I put him.
Interesting. Cris Collinsworth here on the Rich Eisen Show, and you can hear him and the rest of the PFF crew Thursday night, 7 Eastern, right here on Sirius Channel 211, and you can listen at home with Amazon, Alexa, Google Assistant, or however you stream in your house. That'll be on Thursday night for draft night. For the moment, a few more minutes left with you, Chris. So why do you like Isaiah Simmons for the Giants at 4? Don't you think they got to go O-line to protect Daniel Jones, certainly since Gettleman's pushed all his chips to the center of that table, to use a Giants phrase from back in the day? What do you think there?
Yeah, I battled that one. Here's my problem with that one. I look at these 5 offensive linemen as, maybe we just do the top 4, but I look at them as almost being interchangeable. Like, I really, if you gave me the choice of Andrew Thomas, Jedrick Wills,
Wirfs, Tristan Wirfs,
Micah, Tristan Wirfs,
Becton,
Mekhi Becton. That's the name of him, Mekhi.
Yep.
Becton. I'd be like, okay, I don't really care, and I probably would have Becton down a little lower, but between the other 3, between Thomas, Wills, and Wirfs, it doesn't make that big a difference for me. But I think that in Isaiah Simmons, you get another one of those freakish athletes, and if he loves Saquon Barkley, our guys will tell you never draft a running back.
Right.
That it's the most replaceable position in football. But obviously Saquon Barkley is a great player, and that's where he's going to go. But if he went there, then and you've got interchangeable tackles in behind, do you try and trade down? I would, if I were the New York Giants, because I think I could get one of those guys down to 11, 12, 13. But if I had to stay put, I want a freak up there. And to me, the freak in this draft is Isaiah Simmons. And then you'd have a freak on offense, a freak on defense, and go get you a tackle in the second round. And he'd still be better than what they have.
Before I let you go, let's come full circle and talk about, again, our Emmy-nominated friend, Bill Belichick, and what you think the quarterback room is going to look like for New England after this draft. Do you think he's got something big planned? Again, he doesn't have the second rounder because it belongs to Atlanta for that Mohamed Sanu trade that just did not work out and what turned out to be, again, remarkably Brady's final year. What do you think Bill's got cooked up here in regards to his quarterback room, with Stidham and Hoyer being the only ones in it right now?
Can you see Cam Newton going there?
I would love that. I would love it.
I don't know why,
Chris.
I can't. I can't see Jameis Winston going there. I don't know why. I just can't. The guy that I can see going there
Dalton.
is Andy Dalton.
I mean, we had Charlie Weiss on a few weeks ago. He pegged Dalton then. He says that Dalton's the guy, is what he said, to keep an eye on him, and he could become expendable in 2 days, technically.
I think that you're going to see some of these guys getting traded. I think there's going to be a lot of veteran players get traded during the draft And Andy Dalton is the one that, as you look at the New England Patriots today, with what they've got and Josh McDaniels and the players that, I think Andy Dalton would give them a better chance than Jared Stidham. The problem is, and it's going to be the same things true with all these rookie quarterbacks or rookie players in general, is who knows how much time these guys are going to get in camp or OTAs or whatever to learn what they're doing. I mean, you can almost make a case that what difference does it make if you draft a quarterback this year? They're not going to have time to learn what they're doing to be a factor this year, so are you better off gunning for one next year, because we know there's two pretty good ones coming out of there, headlined by Trevor Lawrence. So, there are so many complicating factors, as you probably know, getting ready for your draft show now. Mm-hmm. There's so many complicating factors to this football season. And for the New England Patriots, I assume their thought is they're going to go with Jared Stidham or with a veteran guy that they feel like can plug and play into that system. And for me, that player is Andy Dalton.
Chris, thanks for the time. Always appreciate it, and I truly mean what I say. That what we did last May at NFL Films for NFL 100 all-time team series. I keep, and I'll mention every single time you come on. I don't care. It really was that special. It really, truly was. So I appreciate the time as always and chatting with you.
You got it, buddy. That's a great memory. You're absolutely right.
Right back at you, Cris Collinsworth, Sunday Night Football on NBC Sports, and again, Pro Football Focus. The PFF guys and ladies are locked in. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.